You should invest in a microphone.
I do. I have one.
Oh, okay, cool.
I have one, but I was having a little bit of technical stuff, so I just got it off. As long as you can hear me well, but I've got the mic. So
okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
So, hey guys, welcome again. Hope you're all doing well. I have a very special guest for you today. Got Derek Levandowski. If you don't know who Derek Levandowski is, he's got one of the best Yankee channels out there. Okay, it's called NYY Recaps. Put some of the most awesome content out, and actually, he's the very first guest on this channel. So, and the very first channel I went as a guest on was his channel. So I want to thank him for that. And that's why I wanted to have him as the first guest on mine. So, Derek, what's going on, man?
Man, like everybody else, I'm just trying to keep busy, and find something to do. It's like my main hobby is doing baseball stuff, but there's nothing going on. People keep telling me, make videos, put stuff out. And there's just nothing. Like I've exhausted my content reservoirs. I have this notebook I keep around with like ideas, and I've gone through and done like everything that I was saving for a rainy day. Yeah, same thing. I got the composite book. Everything I was saving for a rainy day is done. Every rumor I've heard is done. So right now I'm just working on behind the scenes stuff, trying to get ready.
Same here, man. There's only so much Beat Bobby Flay I can watch on TV, man.
Yeah.
200 episodes is enough, man.
I've been watching Masterclass. I tell you what, that's a good time filler because I'm learning how to cook from Gordon Ramsay, how to write a screenplay from James Cameron. It's a ton of fun, man. I'm learning to meditate. It's fun.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Gordon Ramsay's nuts, but he's one of my favorite chefs.
Yeah.
Completely insane, man. I mean, aside from that, just watching horror movies and trying to keep riding this thing out until we get some more baseball back. But
horror movies. Are you going to see the new Scream movie, or did you see it already?
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to. Texas Chainsaw's coming out also.
Yeah.
Halloween Ends. And the thing that makes me most happy is if anybody, and if you're a Friday the 13th fan, there's been a decades-long lawsuit about ownership of the screen rights and the screenplay and all that stuff. That's why they haven't made a movie.
Oh.
I don't know if you remember Jason 3D, but the kid Shelly, who's like the chubby kid with the afro, he's one of the attorneys fighting for the rights of this.
Wow.
And
I think he was one of the guys. I think, wasn't he the kid that he got the mask from, the Jason mask, the iconic hockey mask?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I love the Friday the 13th movies, but there's a couple of fan-made ones out there on YouTube. There's one called Never Hike Alone, and there's one called Never Hike in the Snow, I think. And they're really well done. And they're 30 minutes to 45 minutes long, and they're really good. And they're just as good as any of the movies, because the movies are kind of cheesy, right? So it's not that hard to create that kind of actual effects. Yeah, I like the Friday the 13th stuff, but I'm going to see Scream tonight.
I'm going to see it next week, and my wife's not into horror movies, so I go with those solo all the time. Yeah. So, but it's crazy because I've seen those on YouTube, and remember Tom Matthews who played Tommy Jarvis?
Yeah, part 6. That was the best one in my opinion. Yeah, he plays maybe the deputy or something. He was something, but I do remember him in there. That was the best of the Jason movies. That was when he kind of became supernatural. This is supposed to be a Yankees podcast, but whatever. It's here. We talk about whatever you want. Remember he was they were digging him up because Tommy Jarvis went nuts and he wanted to see his corpse or whatever. And then he gets hit by lightning and Jason becomes a zombie and rips the dude's heart out Terminator style. That was fantastic. Yeah.
The guy that played him, his name is CJ Graham. I actually have a photo with him. I went to a horror movie convention called Monster Mania, and it's in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I'm looking for it right now. Cherry Hill, New Jersey, twice a year. And they always have CJ there, Kane Hodder, who played 7, 8, 9, and 10. They have all the Friday the 13th people are in these things. And I met CJ, who was in part 6 when he resurrected him, when Tommy Jarvis resurrected him. And dude is really cool. And one of the reasons why he was so kind of stoic and robotic, the guy, he has a military background. And so he's a fucking solid beast of a guy. And here he is right here. There it is, baby.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yep. And here's I'll show you the other one. Kane. This is Jason part 7.
Choking you. So yeah, Kane. I just watched a great documentary with Kane Hodder. It's called To Hell and Back. Have you seen that?
Loved it. But the burn ward and all that stuff.
So yeah. So what I found interesting was that like he got burns over, I don't know if they said it was like 80 or 90% of his body.
Yeah.
And when that happens to most people, they never go near fire again. And he went back to doing fire stunts. Like the Jason fire stunts were after that. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, and the first time in movie history where he ignited while being on the screen. Usually they're already ignited, but they ignited him from scratch in part 7. And you see him fighting the fire for or being burning for like 30 seconds. So he's completely insane.
Yeah, well.
He was also one of the largest, at the time, he was the largest baby ever born in the state of California. He was like 13 when he was born.
He's a big dude. I mean, you have to be a certain level of insane to be a great artist and to be a legend like he is. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to be able to go to that next level. You know, what I like about that documentary is it really gets behind the scenes into like his work ethic. Like he doesn't show up drunk. Like if he says he's going to be there, he's going to be there. I really respect artists that let you kind of behind the scenes to see how much work goes into it. Because as you know, somebody who does a lot of this type of stuff, technically showbiz, amateur as it may be, you know, you can learn a lot from those guys. Like I watch a lot of Penn Jillette speeches and listen to his podcast, and he really lets you in on like, you know, the behind the scenes, what it takes.
Yeah, and these guys are all pros, man. Especially Kane's an absolute pro. He's good at his job. He's hardworking, like you said. And, he was one of the first person to kind of bring the breathing to the Jason character and these different.
Yeah, so I love that.
He brought life. He made him a menacing-ass character. So, if I ever got an opportunity, I would love to be stabbed in the face by Jason or Michael in a movie. Like, I'll be the dude to go.
I want to get my head squozen so my eyes pop out. Like they get the shoot towards the screen. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Part 3, man. yeah, man. Yeah, I love that stuff. So I watch that stuff all the time, man. And I've watched Halloween Kills about 10 times already. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but how about some baseball chat here?
All right, let's do it. Let's get to it.
First thing I want to, just get your insight on the lockout itself. Because we're 7 weeks into this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating, obviously, for a lot of people, especially fans like us and content creators like us. But where do you see it headed? And if you could appoint anybody to replace Rob Manfred as commissioner, who do you think you would appoint or choose?
So to your first question, where do I see it headed? I think they're going to be playing chicken with spring training. Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to miss actual games. Like I don't think anybody wants to miss that March 31st start date. But the longer this goes, the less time teams are going to have to put together their roster. So I don't know how much chicken teams really want to play. We saw the Rangers, obviously, who the Yankees are going to be playing on opening day, if opening day happens on time. They really went out and tried to address things early. But we saw a lot of the big market teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox just kind of hang back and not really do too much. And I feel like they're going to be kind of, in between a rock and a hard place once this thing ends, because you're not going to have a lot of time to make moves. You might have to overpay in some deals. I'm sure we'll get to deals later, but I just feel like it's not good for anybody. It's not good for the game. It's not good for the fans. Not good for content creators. It's just not good for anybody. It's not good for baseball's image. I never thought I would see another strike or lockout or work stoppage, I guess, after the 94-95 lockout because that was just devastating. And it took Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa to kind of, bring us out of that. Another person who kind of helped bring baseball back from the brink is my answer to your second question. I think that Cal Ripken Jr. would be an awesome commissioner. When I think about a commissioner, I want somebody that I know respects the game and the classic pastime of baseball that it's been throughout the ages. And that, Ripken being such an integral part of baseball history would have that respect for the game. But he's also, he's been involved in the business side of things. He's worked on MLB Network. So he's somebody that can relate to the owner's view, because if you think about what the commissioner is, it's somebody that's hired by the owners to put this, get the trains running on time, essentially. But I don't know what it takes to be a baseball commissioner. I think Rob Manfred's proven that it doesn't take much actual love of the game of baseball. But I don't think he's going to be replaced anytime soon, but I told Patrick in the 643 a couple weeks ago that I can't think of much positive that he's done for the game. I kind of like the 7-inning doubleheaders, but other than that, I can't think of much that I'm grateful that Rob Manfred was here for.
To your point, you made a couple of really good points, actually, especially with the last one with Rob Manfred. I love the 7-inning doubleheaders, too. I think it helps preserve pitchers, and the Yankees have used way too many pitchers in way too many games this past year, and I think it's dug them holes that they didn't need to dig for themselves. That also goes back to needing more durable starting pitchers as well. We'll get to that, but I never thought of Cal Ripken, and you're right. Seeing things from both sides of the spectrum is an important factor as to being a good commissioner, I think. And I think Rob Manfred has earned being universally hated. I think he's earned that. You look at other commissioners like Roger Goodell, he embraces that hate. Or at least he keeps it enjoyable, right? Manfred's a completely different anomaly, like what happened with Ken Rosenthal about a month ago, and things like that. And I know he's got to do the dirty work for the owners, and he's the attorney representing these guys. But at no point, in my view, does he make an effort to make it amicable on both sides, which is why my pick is Theo Epstein, because also having experience from both sides, he's respected on that, and he took the Cubs and the Red Sox out of their drought. He was a very integral part in that, and everything he touched at this point has turned to gold. So, plus, he's been on the MLB side as an executive and a consultant over the past couple of years, so he understands that side as well. But I think if anybody could help transition or at least make it less hostile between both sides, it would be somebody like Epstein, because he has experience fighting for the players, and he clearly has experience on the major league side as well. So what do you think of Epstein? Do you think it would be
I like Epstein as a person, the interviews I've heard with him. I mean, I saw that short documentary, The Deal, and sorry, my dogs are barking in the background. I think we got some food being delivered, but I'm not that familiar with him other than what I've seen in interviews. I get it. He was a good GM. I'd rather have him as the Yankees GM than the commissioner of baseball, honestly.
I was pining for him to replace Theo Epstein at the beginning of the season. I'm like, God, it's all from $1 billion. Get him over here, please. Like,
yeah. So, I mean, I don't think Cashman's going anywhere because he's best friends with Steinbrenner. But, if the job opens up, Epstein would be my first phone call,
Me too. He's high. I mean, he's as qualified as it gets. But I would at the very least interview somebody like Cal Ripken too, because he brings a completely different perspective too, in a long-time Hall of Fame player, something that Epstein was not. So co-commissioners would be nice between the two of them, but that's not going to happen. But
yeah,
either one of them would be a great choice, I think. And
right, I agree with you.
Kind of resurrect some of the things that have just gone stale in the game, and particularly, for big market teams, small market teams, and we'll get to that as well. But those two guys are great picks. On that same subject, let's say if you were commissioner and you could institute 3 policies yourself without needing votes and whatnot, to kind of end the lockout, or just for to make for a better CBA moving forward, what do you think they'd be, or what would they be?
So I do know that the commissioner has like a best interest of baseball clause where he can just wave a magic wand and make certain things happen. So if we're assuming that I can do that and I get 3 things, well, first of all, we're definitely keeping the doubleheaders thing that we already talked about. More than just keeping arms fresh. Like, I love baseball. I've been watching baseball my whole life, but it's tough to sit through 18 innings, especially if there's like a day night and you got the 2-3 hour twilight zone in between. It's like, I got enough time to eat dinner and, maybe grab a quick workout, and then it's back to the couch for 3 more hours, 4 more hours. And if you get occasionally, it happens where you get 2 extra inning games in a doubleheader, it just wipes you out. So I love the 7-inning doubleheader rule. I think changes to the draft are necessary. I don't like the whole tanking thing that the Orioles are doing. It just has never sat well with me that you get rewarded for losing. I like the idea that, I think it was Michael Kay who brought this up, but he might have got it from somewhere else, where he said that one of the ideas is to give the top draft pick to the top team that missed the playoffs, right? So let's say you win about 85 games, right? And you just missed the playoffs, but you tried. You get that top pick. Or you get like maybe those top few teams that just missed. Maybe if you missed the playoffs like by 5 or less games, you're in the lottery for the top pick. Something like that to make it a little bit more fair. That way, if you're on the last day of the season and it's like, there's the baseball version of LeBron James in the draft, and it's like you lose, you're done, but you get that top draft pick. Well, I don't want to start a position player out there and throw the game. Like, I don't want it to be automatic. So I would definitely institute some changes to the draft. And I think that if you finish in last place more than 2 years in a row, or you lose 100+ games more than 2 years in a row, that causes your draft status to even get lower. You know what I mean? To get worse, because I want these teams to try and compete every year. And I kind of like the universal DH too. That would be my third. I just don't like watching pitchers hit. I get a lot of people like that style of the game, and I do too. It's fun in a video game to have to think strategy-wise, but watching a pitcher hit 140 for the season, the pitcher spot, sucks. Or maybe you make it to where you have a DH, but you can't replace the DH. If you can't pinch hit for the DH, or if the DH hurts himself running or whatever, then the pitcher spot is take over, something like that.
I like that. It involves other players as well. I mean, that's, and to your point too, with regards to kind of discouraging tanking, like if you think about it, and I always think about the Tampa Bay Rays, they didn't start becoming good until they had about 6 years in a row of number one draft picks.
Right.
Like a combination, just tank. Just like the Browns in football. They went 0 for like 1,000, and then all of a sudden they started winning games because they had number one draft picks like 5 years in a row. But I like the idea of too discouraging the tanking component. And it kind of it leads right into what I was going to talk about, which is the revenue sharing component. And one thing I would introduce is requiring the small market teams who get all this revenue sharing money from the big market teams, requiring them to actually invest the money in players and payroll. Okay, because they're not required to do that right now.
Yeah, that's dumb.
You're just pocketing money. And if you want to get towards something, which is my second thing, which is a gradual increase in that payroll floor, instead of saying, because I know some people saying 100 million right off the bat, well, you have teams at 50, doubling it's going to be really hard. So if you increase by maybe 10 million per year until they're at 105 years, it'll make it easier to not only get there, but utilizing the money that they get from teams like the Yankees, who pay the most amount of revenue sharing almost every year, would help them facilitate such a move, right? Help them get to that payroll floor, make them a little bit more competitive, and actually penalize, like you said, penalize intentional tanking. Because
right.
That's the other thing too. Like I like, as much as I like Adley Rutschman, he's a good looking player. Do I really want to watch him on a team that's going to lose 100 games 5 years in a row? Like,
right.
If they're not making any other efforts to do anything, there's a good chance they're probably going to move Cedric Mullins at some point. And what's the point of having these blue chippers if you're going to keep moving them and just kind of rinse and recycle? That's kind of the way I feel about the Oakland A's sometimes. And they get to a certain point and they just dump the guys that become expensive with years of control, and then they just repeat the process. So
yeah, I think the A's are the case of, they're trying to get to the postseason as often as they can within their, boundaries, their constraints of their payroll.
Yep.
And they're just kind of hoping that they can, run into a hot streak as you get into the playoffs one year and win a World Series. I truly believe that Billy Beane, along with Brian Cashman, they just believe that the playoffs are a crapshoot, and I don't necessarily think that's true, but you could see a lot of similarities in the way they put their teams together. It's like trying to get to the playoffs as opposed to trying to build like that juggernaut squad. For the A's, it works better because they don't have the resources to build that juggernaut squad, but you can piece together enough, broken toys to sometimes get to the playoffs. Yankees, I think, though, I don't think they take advantage of their resources quite enough. I would agree.
And again, I mean, it's not only this point of having the most players or the most talent, but having the right players. Because if you look at the teams in '98, in those big Yankee teams, Scott Brocious wasn't the best third baseman in baseball. When he came here, he turned into it. Like, is having the right combination of guys, the right ingredients to make that pasta, to make that food is key. And if you're missing certain ingredients, it's not going to taste as good. They're not going to play as good, right? So, and it goes back to the same thing. Is this the right guy? Like, do we feel like Joey Gallo was the right piece when they brought him here? Like, or some certain moves that Brian Cashman makes, like bringing in Clay Holmes, he turned into be the right piece. Like, and that's the thing with Cashman too. You think he's going to do something, he does something different. You think he's going to do a lot, he does nothing. And then you sit around, this guy's a bum, and all of a sudden he brings in this guy that's going to become a killer reliever like Clay Holmes. So, and the same thing with the A's. I mean, I agree too about the crapshoot. Do they have the right pieces to put themselves in a position to beat all the different types of teams that they're going to be facing in the playoffs. Are they athletic enough? Are they versatile enough? And this is where I am putting together the right team from the start kind of comes into play, in my opinion. Putting the right building blocks in the beginning.
I definitely think the A's are going to break it down right now. I think they're getting into that, rebuild phase.
Yep.
And, everybody talks about if the Yankees trade with the A's and make a big blockbuster deal that it's going to cost them Dominguez or Volpe. I don't necessarily think so. I think that teams or I think that fans underestimate the value of a team quickly dumping a lot of very big contracts. Like to the A's, dumping $12 million here, $10 million there, $8 million here. Like, sure, you probably get more in return from players if you broke them apart and dealt. But here's where having the lockout eliminate time for them to make those moves. And they might be having conversations behind the scene, but you get to the point where the lockout ends and you got to make a move quickly. Well, the Yankees can just say, hey, we'll take on all of your contracts. We'll take a Chapman. We'll take an Olsen. We'll take a Frankie Montas, a Chris Bassett, whoever. And we'll give you good prospects, but not our best guys. And you're completely, over that financial burden. And by the way, we'll also give you like a Gleyber Torres, like a lottery ticket that might turn into a big time player again. And then you might be able to spin him off for even more. I think the Yankees can get it done without giving up, Volpe or Dominguez.
I agree. The only way I see them, Dominguez being involved is if they get somebody like Sean Murphy back, their catcher, with Olsen and a Montez. Then at that point, Dominguez might be part of the discussion. Dominguez and 3 other guys. But I'm with you. I think they can facilitate a big trade with them and give up more volume than the top guys. And adding a Gleyber Torres instead of an Oswald Peraza. I mean, I would really love to see if they can get these guys from Oakland without giving up Peraza, because I would like to see Peraza pan out, shortstop in the short term, and not block Volpe in a way. So, but that remains to be seen. Personally, the only player I think I would give up Dominguez for would be Brian Reynolds.
Yeah.
Because he's essentially, in my eyes, the finished product of what we want Dominguez to be. He's already there. And he's got 4 controllable years. He's a superstar. And there's no guarantee that Dominguez is going to turn out that way. I understand he's highly touted, and he looks a good-looking player. I've seen some footage of him recently. He's made some mechanical adjustments with his leg lift and lifting his back arm up with his swing. So he's made some adjustments already. But, that's also a crapshoot, relying on Dominguez and then not taking the chance on a big superstar. So
yeah, there was an article from Brian Hoke yesterday about how Jason Dominguez is an anomaly. Like everybody knows about the exit velocities. His exit velocities are crazy, but they have a lot of behind the scenes measurables on other things too. And apparently he's just off the charts in terms of his physical tools. I personally would hang on to him. I would rather not make a deal. I've been a fan for 30 years. I can stomach a couple of losing seasons. Even if we have Judge and Cole on the team and you expect to win, I can stomach a couple of losing seasons. But if you're telling me you're trying to win now, I'd prefer you hang on to him and try and figure out some other calculus that works. I still think that there's room to shuffle some guys around. I think Urshela is movable. You're not going to get a lot back for him. But, I mean, he's not somebody that you let block a great player, right? So I don't think the Yankees are married to keeping Urshela, but he's got enough value that they could move him if they need to. They could definitely they could move Gleyber Torres. I don't know who it would be or if you'd get maximum value for him. You probably couldn't get a lot of value for him, but you could move him. You could move Luke Voit, especially if the DH is implemented league-wide. Luke Voit in Colorado, I've been saying this for years, would be an MVP candidate. If not for his defense. He'd probably hit 40 home runs. I could see the Yankees moving some of these guys. And I have to imagine that with the lockout, GMs can still talk to each other. There might be some creative deals. You just said that Cashman likes to zig when we think he's going to zag. It wouldn't surprise me if he made a bunch of moves out of left field and just and transform the roster, because this team needs more than 1 or 2 guys to overcome not only the Rays, But I think the Blue Jays are going to be a really good team. I think the Blue Jays are going to be a 95-win team next year. The Red Sox are going to get better. They got the best manager in the game other than Kevin Cash, I think. It's Cashman's got some work to do. And we're about to find out. What kind of GM he really is.
Exactly. And like you said, too, and I've been kind of stressing this, too. This is more than a one off-season project. This is a multiple off-season project to put him on good long-term footing. And, and I do think there's a lot of holes that he needs to address, a lot of changes that he needs to make. And a lot of the guys you mentioned, they are valuable moving pieces. The A's are going to give us, let's just say, Olsen and Montez. I mean, they've got 2 years of control each at a more expensive contract. Labor Torres on a cheaper deal. He's got 3 years of control. Voit, 3 years of control. So they would get more team control at lower contracts. So these guys could be part of a bigger package.
And the Yankees can pay those contracts. Like paying Gleyber Torres is $5 or $6 million for the next couple of years. No big deal. But that's a big deal to the A's. That allows them to go out and get some of those margin pieces that you can fill out. Like that's how they keep this. That's how they keep competing every year, even though that they're not churning out superstars all the time. You keep enough guys around. You use just enough analytics, just like the Rays.
Yeah, and again, leaves them flexibility. The Yankees have the ability to absorb salaries more than most teams. And in certain instances, I wish they would a little bit more often. Like you said, too, with National League potentially implementing a DH, it creates opportunities for guys like Voit and some other guys. And that's also 15 new, jobs available in National League for teams to become more offensively entertaining. And like you said, too, the pitchers collectively hit at about 110 this year.
Yeah.
You put Voit in there, you put Gary Sanchez in there, you put someone else, and you have these 20, 30, 40 home run guys now. That team looks a hell of a lot better. The Miami Marlins could facilitate one of these trades.
Let me throw this at you. So after the last work stoppage, home runs, offense kind of brought the league back. Offense was down this year because of the baseball. Do you think baseball is going to rejuice the balls going into this year just to bring back some of that excitement? I think it might happen. I think you might see some of those juice balls come back, or a mixture like juiced balls, but with a little tackier, cover or whatever, just to placate the pitchers. But still have that tight core so that we see more offense. If I'm another team, and I'm if I'm maybe the Cardinals, and I know the Cardinals are they've already got some big bats in that lineup, but maybe the Dodgers. If I'm one of those teams that's in contention but has a new opening for a DH, I'm calling the Yankees about Giancarlo Stanton, because he's a reasonable contract now, and that might be somebody that the Yankees. Honestly, I know we all love Giancarlo and he's Mr. Clutch, and I love Giancarlo. But if the Dodgers called me up and said I'll give you 2 prospects and take the whole contract, I would do it in a second.
Yeah, especially if one of those prospects was their catcher. They have their number one prospect as a catcher, and we need catching depth. We need a lot more because we don't have an answer beyond Gary Sanchez. In the farm,
Austin Wells, I guess, is a couple of years away. I haven't heard much about him defensively, other than he's got kind of a bad elbow. You know what I mean? And it's kind of important when you have to throw. Every time that the pitcher throws, the catcher throws too. And the catcher's in a lot worse position when he's making his throw because he's on his knees and he's squared off against his target. He's just kind of throwing back, with a lot of force on that elbow. So I think people undervalue how important it is for a catcher's arm to be healthy.
Yeah, and how quickly they have to transition and throw like a rocket to get there in a second or whatever. You just reminded me of Moneyball. Scott Hatteberg was a catcher who turned him into a first base because his arm was all jacked up. And they were already projecting him to be a middle infield, like a corner infielder.
Moneyball is a great movie, wasn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic.
I just watched we were talking about Masterclass. I watched what was the guy's name? Aaron Sorkin. He gives a lot of detail about like writing his scripts, and he talks a lot about Moneyball. It was really interesting.
That's I've been really intrigued. I'm glad you mentioned it because I want to subscribe to that as well. I want to participate in Masterclass too. I've thought about it. I love Gordon Ramsay. Like I said, he's completely insane. But I have his cookbooks. I have Flay's cookbooks, and I do a lot of the cooking in the house. So, and watching and being able to just sit there through a cooking lesson or whatever it is for one of these guys that's not necessarily YouTube. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Hey, did you hear that the Yankees just officially signed Roderick Arias?
$3.5 million deal.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty good. That's a pretty good deal. I figured he was going to be another $5 million guy, from everything we've heard.
Yeah.
But I guess there's only one Martian for a reason.
Exactly. I'm surprised he actually came in at slot. His slot was 3-5. They signed some other shortstop too through Venezuela today.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't catch his name.
Yeah, I didn't catch. It's I don't know, Juan something or whatever. But Luis, I think Luis Valdez or something like that. They still have a little bit more. They have about $1.5 million of slot money, so I'm sure they're going to bring in a couple more guys. The Reds and Dodgers have been crazy busy. Reds have signed like 15 guys already in the international play. So, but I wanted to go back to my third thing I would implement. The first one would be revenue sharing, and then the tiered increase. This one is probably the most controversial, which would be a team opt-out. So a team opt-out. So let's say you sign somebody to a 10-year deal at a monster deal, and he's either hurt or he's just shit in the bed. A team, I think, giving a team maybe an opt-out every 5 years or so, which gives them an opportunity to opt out of a gargantuan contract, but it has to be at least halfway through the contract, gives them some flexibility, puts the player back out on the market or whatever. But I don't think it's fair to have only players to take advantage of opt-outs. Obviously, it would be a little bit more limited. And I use Jacoby Ellsbury as an example because pretty much for the last 4 years of his contract, he didn't play. And even though insurance paid for his salary, it still counted toward the Yankees payroll.
That's, I think, a better solution, and one that the players would be more likely to agree to, is if you're injured or on the IL, that doesn't count towards your luxury tax. You know what I mean? It doesn't count towards your payroll. I just can't see the players ever giving in on letting teams opt out of guaranteed contracts. They fought so hard for guaranteed contracts in the 70s. I just don't see it happening. But I could see them agreeing to, hey, that might give more players a chance to be added to like big market teams. Yeah. I mean, Jacoby Ellsbury stopped the Yankees from making a number of moves that could have pushed them into the playoffs in the, mid 2010s, So that was a disaster.
Yeah, that and Carl Pavano, that was another albatross. But yeah, you hamstrings teams. So something like to that effect where it doesn't count towards their payroll or luxury tax, I think should be implemented because it protects the teams and allows them to continue to. Because if somebody is legitimately hurt, like Albert Bell, he had a degenerative hip, so he had to retire. But it was still, he just got paid his full salary, even though he retired. Right. So something that protects the teams, and I'm all for protecting the players. And I think they need to come close to the players here during the CBA, or closer to the players. But something like that, I think, would be, like you said, a little bit more of a nuanced version like yours would be, I think, would be a good thing to implement. But I wanted to pivot to coaching. I mean, what are your thoughts? Are you happy with the Yankees coaching staff? Are you happy with Balkovic being promoted?
So Balkovic, yeah. I mean, she's obviously breaking some ground.
Yeah.
I don't know much about her. I invited her onto my show to talk. I haven't heard back yet, but I would love to have a conversation with her. Everything that I've seen from her interviews suggests that, she's very bright, and all I care about is winning. You know what I mean? Like, if you can win, I don't care what the hell's between your legs. Yeah. I just want to win. As far as the rest of the coaching staff, I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts other than changes were needed. Hopefully they run the bases better this year. I hope they play more well-rounded baseball. I don't want to see guys with a runner on third and less than 2 outs taking home run swings. I know a 2-run home run helps you, but you score the run if you just hit the ball to the right side. And it's about winning. It's not about statistics. And it's hard because players get paid on statistics, right? So, maybe there's more of an emphasis on well, I don't want to say small ball because people think of small ball as bunts and hit and runs and things like that. But really, it's just the little things within a baseball game that can help you win. Things like the catcher running to back up first base, something we don't always see Gary Sanchez do.
Yeah. That's
small ball. It's the little marginal things that help you win baseball games. So that's number one. I just want them to play better baseball. I don't really have an opinion on Dylan Lawson yet. Obviously, like Matt Blake, he's a guy who takes more of a scientific approach, and obviously worked for Matt Blake. But hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports.
Yep.
And these are guys who've been doing it a certain way for years and years and years. It's going to be hard. I think it'll work better for guys making the adjustment from the major leagues to the minor leagues. like guys getting called up, and maybe that's their plan. Maybe their plan is to go to a younger group of baby bombers over the next couple of years, and they want Dylan Lawson in place to help them adjust. But I want to see it in action. I want if June rolls around and we got 5 guys hitting under 200 again, I'm not going to be too happy with Dylan Lawson. I guarantee there'll be videos questioning Dylan Lawson's ability as hitting coach. Now, if they show a dramatic improvement, then I'll give them a chance, but the Yankees just have to improve. And that's honestly all I care about. And as far as an opinion on these guys, the specifics, I just don't know. I just don't have enough data because I haven't seen them in action. I'm not super happy about bringing Aaron Boone back. I know a lot of people think that he's one of the best managers in baseball. I don't get it. I've seen a lot of managers. I would have gone with Buck Showalter. I would have had the exact same offseason that the Mets have had. They tried to beat everybody to the punch. They brought in Escobar. Escobar's a fantastic utility guy, power switch hitter. They bring in Max Scherzer, who didn't want to play in New York. Turns out money talks, which is what we were saying the whole time. And I don't think Cashman even approached him. I would have loved to see Max Scherzer behind Garrett Cole. Could you imagine that? At that point, the wild card doesn't scare me because one of them's going. One of them's taking the ball. So the Mets have had the offseason that I wanted, and I'm jealous, and I'm not afraid to admit that I'm jealous. But hey, look, I'm Brian Cashman's the GM. Aaron Boone's the manager. We just have to, as fans, trust that there's things that we don't know behind the scenes and that they hopefully know what they're doing. But I lost confidence in Aaron Boone last season. I just lost confidence in him. June, July, rolling around, and he keeps saying that everything's all right. We're going to be fine. When everybody can see that the team is not fine. Yeah. And it turns out we were right. The team did not perform well. That was an 86-win team if you go by the Pythagorean theorem. And you can make the argument that he managed the team to 90-plus wins, whatever it was, 92 wins. Sure, he might have helped them win those extra 6 games with his management. But don't lie to me. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. I want to hear you after the game, if the team played like shit, to be like, hey, look, we didn't run the bases well. We didn't do it. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. These guys need to improve. I didn't see enough effort out of Torres on jogging down the first baseline. I want to hear the truth. I watched the game. Show me some respect. Don't tell me what I saw is wrong. Who are you going to believe? Aaron Boone or your lying eyes? I don't believe Aaron Boone. And he lost me last year. And I'm going to be tough on Aaron Boone if the Yankees don't win. I'm going to rip him every fucking day.
Yeah, rightfully so, man. I mean, and I'm also disappointed. I wanted them to go in a different direction. But I'll say this. One of the things that I am most encouraged with is Lawson. And so if you look at the last couple of years, and I'm very excited about how they were performing at AA and AAA. And a lot of it was a direct result of Matt Lawson's philosophy and some of their disciples within the system who are now with us.
Dylan Lawson.
Yeah.
Dylan Lawson, excuse me.
One of their main mantras hit strikes hard. Okay. And it's something the Yankees haven't done in a long time. They were looking at strikes right down the middle. They were watching, and they were swinging at stuff 8 feet off the plate. So, and, bringing a more disciplined approach. And if you look at, he worked with guys like Oswaldo Cabrera, Oswald Peraza, even Volpe a little bit. And those guys had a much more balanced offensive profile than a lot of these guys at the major league level did. Singles, doubles, stealing bases, a balanced approach instead of a lot of home runs, a boatload of strikeouts, a low batting average. The Yankees were 26 out of 30 in batting with runners in scoring position last year. That's
right. And the team is just too slow. You know what I mean? Like, Gleyber Torres is unreasonably slow for 24 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 38. I can outrun Gleyber Torres. I promise you. There's, Luke Voigt. I mean, he's a great slugger. He hits the ball really hard, but the guy's not an athlete. You know what I mean? He runs like a piano. I want more athletic baseball. That's one of the reasons I think the Yankees might go after Isaiah Kiner-Falefa for shortstop, because he's like an acrobatic type of defensive player. He can run, got a good arm. He's not a great offensive player, obviously, but we've seen the type of energy that you can get from like good athletic defensive play. It kind of raises the energy in the building. there's something to that. There's something to momentum, you know? I can't put my finger on it. You can't measure it with a barometer, but you know, I bet my life that if we die and we go to the eternal knowledge library, we'll find out that there really was something to knowledge or to energy of you know, a team momentum, that type of thing.
Yeah, and it's guys like you said, they got rid of Odor. He wasn't the sexiest player, but he brought an energy to the team, a fire to the team that they didn't have. Tyler Wade, these little guys. Luis Sessa was another one. Good chemistry guy, good teammate guy. And like, looking back this year, the only three guys I was really excited about watching were Stanton, Cole, and Judge. And
yeah,
I enjoy watching the other guys, but like, you know, I mean, Luke Voigt runs like Steve Balboni. Like,
yeah.
Come on, dude. It takes you 3 days to get to first base. Like,
yeah, I want more athletes. And that's one of the things that I like about, you know, like the Oswaldo Cabrera coming up. I think he's going to fit in as the new Tyler Wade, but he's a switch hitter and he's got power and he fits in with Dylan Lawson. Yeah. You know, they might see him as like the super utility guy. What's interesting about him is that he only weighs about like 150 pounds. He's $150 and he's got power. Yeah. So that shows you that you don't have to be super strong or super muscular. It's about making solid contact on the barrel. It's about hand speed. It's about hitting the right pitches. Yeah. So we'll see how it works out, but I'm liking giving that kid a chance. Yeah. I don't think he's going to play shortstop every day, but I think he'll be the utility guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine if they had Oswald Peraza and Oswaldo Cabrera. Both of them have good strike zone recognition, right? They hit the ball everywhere. They spray the ball everywhere. And I'd like to see more singles and doubles. And you have guys like that because just like guys like Tyler Wade, if you compare him to Gleyber Torres, right? Let's say you're at first base and DJ comes up and hit a double. Well, the chances of Gleyber Torres scoring are low. The chances of those guys scoring is high. That's the difference between a run and not a run, right? That could be the difference of a game there. The Yankees have lost far too many of these games because of bad base running, getting thrown out, not hitting when it counts. And guys like that, I think, could, you know, collectively make a difference.
I think Clint Frazier probably addition by subtraction, just because of all the base running mistakes and the missing the cutoff man. And like somebody phrased it really well, that he's a showcase player. Like if you go to a baseball tryout or whatever, and you see Clint Frazier, you see him make a circus catch, you see him hit a ball 450 feet in batting practice, you see lightning quick hands, he runs okay, he's jacked, he looks cocky. You're thinking, I want that guy. Get me that guy. But then you watch him play every single day, and he's not a baseball player. He's just a strong kid. He's not a baseball player. No. I wish him a ton of luck in Chicago, but I'm glad to be done with Clint Frazier.
Yeah, as am I. I mean, his talent was enticing, but that was all it was, really.
Right.
You know, a couple nice home runs and whatnot, but like we need more complete type players. We need a lot of them.
Yeah.
The Yankees are lacking them, so we need more balance to this freaking team. So, you know, and with that, I mean, my last question in terms of coaching, like, do you have anybody in mind for the second assistant coach? I mean, I have two names that keep popping up in my head. One of them. Go ahead.
So go ahead. Yeah, tell me your two.
Edgar Martinez.
Okay.
He actually had a unique hitting draw. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. They used to put a number on the baseball and put it through the machine. And he had to identify what number was on the baseball when he was coming and doing a hitting draw. And more often than not, he was able to identify it. That's how his vision, how good his vision was in terms of recognizing stuff, which made him so good. That's sick. That's insane.
That's supernatural. You know, I don't think anybody else would be able to do that draw.
No, I don't think so either. And the other one's Bernie Williams.
Yeah.
With the system, a switch hitter. I think he can help people on both sides. He was a good contact hitter. You know, he wasn't one of the flashy players. I think he should have been the core 5, to be honest, not the core 4. I would have put him in the core 5. But he did a lot of the little things that the Yankees didn't do. You know, and I think he'd be an integral part too. And a good student.
So I keep hearing the name Carlos Beltran. I don't think that's going to happen. The guy I like is Chili Davis. He was the Mets' primary hitting coach at the beginning of last year. He gets a lot of mentions when anybody's looking for a hitting coach. Apparently he was a great clubhouse guy.
He was.
He's really, really intelligent, which I like. And the idea of having an actual ex-major league hitter on staff appeals to me, rather than just bringing in another science guy. And like you said, being a switch hitter, knowing what it takes to work on both sides of the plate. You know, not only in the season where you're going to have guys like Oswaldo Cabrera coming up, Aaron Hicks on the team as a switch hitter. You know, you got guys coming through the system now like Jason Dominguez. He's probably going to be in spring training. Roderick Arias, switch hitter. Having that knowledge just within the system at your disposal, he could pass along some drills to these younger guys. He could teach them, here's what to work on. Here's how to budget your time if you're working on 2 swings. If you're slumping from one side of the plate, what do you do? That type of stuff. So, Chili Davis would probably be the first phone call I would make.
That's a good one. And actually, I think there's a great similarity between Chili and Bernie is the ego is not there.
Right.
So they wouldn't be upset at taking an assistant hitting coaching position or something to that effect. I think they'd be willing participants in the exercise.
I think Bernie wants to keep doing his music though, right? I mean, he's a world-class musician. He's selling out, concert halls. I don't know if he wants to get back into baseball, travel all around. Not everybody I don't think that Paul O'Neill, I think he would be a good hitting coach, but I don't think he wants to do it. I don't care how much money you offered him. You can't even get him to go to to sit in the studio to Yankee Stadium. He's in Studio 21 and just sitting in his basement. I think Paul O'Neill, if he's watching, I think Paul O'Neill has the love for his wife that is like, he's loved her since high school. He does not want to leave her for an instant. And some men are like that, Some men are like, I got to get away, I need a break, But he's just one of those people. He was like my grandfather on my mom's side. Just the world, the sun rose and set with my grandmother. And I think that's how it is with Paul and his wife. And that's why I think he won't leave Studio 21. He's got Neville there.
Yeah, I could see that. And some people on some of the live streams, I do mention Tino Martinez, but I don't think they remember when he was coaching in Tampa. He, to me, was a combination between Sam Kinison and Bill Romanowski. He was a monster. I don't know if you remember, but he was hated by the players. He didn't last a year. And his style, I mean, he was an intense guy. I met him a long time ago. He's an intense guy, but I don't think it translated well to being a coach. And
Tino wasn't a great hitter. Like Tino wasn't. He had one of those swings that was built for Yankee Stadium, but you could get him out. Tino was a selective hitter.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't think he ever hit 300 in his career, and that was at a time when everybody was hitting 300. I mean, he was good, but I'd equate him as like I'd put him about on the same level as maybe like a Didi Gregorius, somebody who was built for Yankee Stadium, had great years with the Yankees.
Yeah.
But was definitely served by having that slight uppercut in Yankee Stadium and hitting a lot of balls with backspin.
Yeah.
Giambi would be another one that would, Giambi was a coach, a manager. He gets a lot of praise for his work with young players, played in New York, and he was a good hitter. I mean, he was a power guy. Before he got to the Yankees, he was a guy who, hit 340. I think he hit 342 in 2000. So, he would be somebody I'd consider. Yeah.
By his teammates, his coaches, a very nice guy, very popular guy. So somebody who's well respected in the system would be a good addition. And I think he would be a helpful one too. He took care of the young guys when he was a veteran, and the young guys came to the system. He was kind of mentored them and took care of them, took them out to dinner and all this stuff. And so he was very good to his teammates when he was at the Yankees. So something that people will remember. But I wanted to move on to 3-on-3. So 3-on-3 is essentially 3 moves that you think the Yankees should make, and then contrasting them to what you think they'll actually make, and see, because I think it's going to be vastly different, right?
So I thought about this. You sent me this early, full disclosure, and gave me some time to think about it. So first of all, you can't fix the Yankees in 3 moves. No. We tried. I spent a whole day trying to do it. You can't do it. No. But if I had 3 moves to sort of better the roster in 3 different areas, I want to improve their offense, I want to improve their pitching, and I want to improve their defense. So I go get Matt Olson, Carlos Rodon, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa for shortstop. Those are the 3 moves that I would make. Now, what do I think the Yankees will actually end up doing to the delight of all the fans? I think it's going to be Brett Gardner, Andrelton Simmons, and Anthony Rizzo. I think those are the 3 easiest low-hanging fruits that Brian Cashman can go get. And just by your reaction right there, it's true. It's true. Yeah. It's 100% what Brian Cashman, he's climbing down a building right now. He's rappelling, and he's got in his back pocket, he's got a to-do list in his wallet, and it says, re-sign Brett Gardner, sign Andrelton Simmons, and sign Anthony Rizzo. And I know that fans are going to be pissed to hear me say that, but That's what's going to happen, I think. That's what the Yankees are going to do. That's what Hal Steinbrenner will allow them to spend. And he's going to say, well, we're going to hold on to the young guys, and we really believe in it. Look, if they make those moves, if they go get Gardner, if they go get Rizzo, if they go get Simmons, fans are going to be pissed, and the Yankees are not going to make the playoffs. I'm just going to tell you that. But I think that's what's going to actually happen.
It reminds me of, you see Draft Day when he writes down Vontae Mack no matter what? And
yeah.
In his back pocket's going to be Andrelton Simmons no matter what in his back pocket.
That is a great movie. Not enough people give Draft Day the credit. I want my draft picks back. All of them. What a great – there's not enough great sports content anymore. Like in the 90s, we had all these great sports movies. Wow. You know, you had what was the Disney football movie? It was with the coach, the Denzel Washington coach. It was I forget what it was.
Titans.
Yeah, I remember the Titans. Great movie.
Oh my
you
God.
Had Miracle. You know, obviously the baseball movies from the 90s and the 80s. But there's just not a lot of great sports movies these days. There's like good fighting movies, like boxing movies. There's been a few, but in terms of baseball, there's really nothing. I want them to make a Ted Lasso kind of show, but for baseball. Like you could have all these interesting characters. You can have the broadcaster who's kind of like a schmoozy type of like the Brockmire character. You can have the Hideki Matsui character who's like got a giant pornography collection. There's a lot of room for like interesting characters in baseball. You can have like the Serrano type with the Cuban exile with the voodoo, like that type. There's so many room for characters. There's so many people in that room. Did you ever see the show called Playmakers? It was an old ESPN football show.
It's been a while, but yes, I have.
That was a great series because it was a serious show and it had some funny moments, but it was just a really good drama that followed a team throughout the whole season. And then at the end of the season, the NFL kind of put the nix on them doing that because it was like putting a bad image on the NFL. And it was supposedly like the most true to life representation of the sport. Like there was, you know, people with off the field troubles. There was a guy who was like trying to make a comeback. There was like a character who was secretly a homosexual, and like there was all the things that come with that. And it was a great show, and I wish more people had seen it.
It just reminded me when you said the homosexual guy that in the movie Valentine's Day. I don't know if you remember, if you've ever seen it. The guy that plays McSteamy in Grey's Anatomy. He's like, I'm gonna come out today and say I'm gay and I'm here to play. And that was the line from the movie. And he's like, don't be, I can kick any one of your asses, so don't think I'm not going to do that. Because he was trying to receive it. He's a free agent. And you just reminded me that was a classic line. It's a funny movie, but that's the football part.
I think I've seen it, but I think I saw it with my wife like several years ago. And it's one of those ones where it was like, all right, I'm just going to drink through this movie because I don't really anticipate it being a classic. It's like, let's just get through this so we can have dinner, that type of thing.
Yeah. And he was dating Bradley Cooper in that movie. He was the guy.
Oh, yeah.
And then they went off. Then they did Valentine. They did New Year's Day, and they did a whole bunch of those types of movies with the holidays. But that was a classic. But you're right too. All these sports movies, man. Remember the Titans, For Love of the Game. He's been in a ton of them. Kevin Costner, a ton of them.
Yeah. The what was the one where he's I guess it was For Love of the Game where he's a pitcher and at Yankee Stadium.
Tigers.
Engage the mechanism. I love that.
Yep, that's the one. That's the one. That's a great movie. He perfect games them at Yankee Stadium.
And then I think Vin Scully was doing the broadcast. Like, Baseball's a great format for a movie if it's based around a single game because it has like a natural endpoint, right? And it's like a 3-act. In movies, you have 3-act. There's like the beginning, the middle, and the ending. And so you can have like the beginning of the movie be the first part of the game and then flashback to some other stuff. And then the middle of the movie be the second part and then flashback to some other stuff. And then, of course, you get the third act. Yep. I've been watching all the Rocky movies again recently. I'm big on the Rocky movies. Yep. And I just watched the recut of Rocky IV. It's Rocky versus Drago. And so I have a season pass to my local movie theater called Alamo Drafthouse, and I can get 2 movies per day or 2 seats per day to any movie I want. And I was supposed to bring 2 different friends, one on Saturday and one on Monday, to go see the same movie. And they both got COVID. And so neither one of them went. And I watched the movie twice by myself in the theater. But I tell you what, it was a pretty good. They recut all the fight scenes between Apollo and Drago, and then Rocky and Drago. But the rest of the movie was like, just as a video editor, it offended me, the imprecision with some of the cuts. I feel like it was really bad. But the fight scenes are worth watching that movie again for.
Rocky throws more haymakers than anybody I've ever seen in my life. No, ever. It's all this.
Yeah.
He's hit. He's hit.
Yeah. Yeah. He can work the body, though. I like how they carried through some of the stuff throughout the series. Like in the first Rocky movie, I guess it was Mickey, the trainer, was talking to somebody off camera, and you could hear him talking. He says, "Oh, he goes to the body like nobody you ever seen." And then like they make that a recurring thing throughout the series, as he really chops guys down, bigger opponents with body shots. So
got that Mike Tyson type body shot stuff. That's what he used to do all the time, man.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. And I've never seen anything. I've seen him fight live in real life, Mike Tyson, when I was younger. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it was rage, just pure rage.
I would have loved to have seen prime Mike Tyson versus prime Muhammad Ali.
So I watched a lot of the Tyson fights in the 90s, like the
Trevor Burbick.
That was before my time. I watched like Holyfield. I watched Buster Mathis, the second Frank Bruno fight. And I remember they were showing highlights of the first one where he actually connected on Mike really hard and like threw him off balance. And that was pretty much the only time other than Buster Douglas that anybody had ever done that. But then he just obliterated Frank Bruno the second. And Frank Bruno was as close as you could get to like a physical specimen.
Wow.
I mean, this guy I wouldn't have wanted to fight that guy, Mike Tyson, but he wasn't scared. He just beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, Tyson. And his ring entrance, just,
yeah.
The fight I saw him, and it was against Spinks, and he came in, and it was just the music was dragging chains and like some. So it was scary entrance music too. And by the time he got to the ring, Spinks was completely psyched out. He's like, this guy's gonna kill me.
If anybody's watching hasn't seen the Michael Spinks fight, it was 90 seconds, and Michael Spinks was undefeated to that point. He had never been knocked down, and Tyson not only beat him in the first round, he knocked him down 2 times. And I think the second one actually sent him into the shadow realm, because he was going down. He was going to try and like get under and do like an uppercut to Mike. And Mike just kind of stepped to the side and hit him with a straight right hand, just right to the face. And you could see his legs just collapse and he falls on his back. And that man was in another universe. He was communicating with his ancestors for a few minutes. He was done. It's done. The whole fight's on YouTube.
Yeah, man.
I think you can repost it. You can repost that whole fight and not even break any copyright laws because it's so short.
It's true. It's 90 seconds of just death march. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So let me give you my 3-on-3. So
all right.
What I think they should do is do 2 trades. Obviously, I think the trade should be multiplayer trades because it allows them an opportunity to address multiple positions at once, right? So Olsen and a pitcher, like you said, Olsen from the A's and like a Frankie Montez. I like 2 years of control. Do I think if they get anybody, I think it's probably going to be a Chris Bassett more than a Montez, but I would go for Montez and Olsen to address starting pitching because I think I'm of the opinion they need 2 more starters. Not only a 2, I think you need a 2 number 2s or a 2 and a legitimate number 3 because between Cole and everybody else, it's a mile. And I just, I like Nestor Cortez, but I think he gassed out in the second half. I think having him in long relief and letting him build up his arm endurance a little bit more and then transitioning him back to the rotation, I think is a good idea. He's here until 2026, so there's plenty time to do that.
And Monty's pretty good, but he's like the perfect number 4.
Yeah, exactly. I want 2 guys in between Cole and Monty. Severino worries me. He hasn't shown that he can. I don't want to throw him to the wolves and have him just say he's our number 2. It makes me nervous. So until he proves again that he's healthy to go back and transition, I'll be happy to do that. But I just worry about that. We missed 2.5 years of his 4-year deal already. So this is his last year of his 4-year extension, and he's been hurt for almost 3 of them. So it just worries me. I love his talent, but he's clearly dominant when he's starting. But I want to make sure I would have him in long. I would have 3 long relievers: Cortez, Michael King, and Severino to ease the bridge between starters and the short inning guys. And then if any of them can translate up, then you translate one of them into the rotation. But I think 2 starters, especially when the Yankees always have pitching injuries. I mean, we're going to start the season without Taillon already.
Yeah.
So more depth, the better, in my opinion. So this,
And God forbid Garrett Cole goes down. And if Garrett Cole goes down, you're screwed.
yeah, exactly. It's a completely different. It's terrible. It's like Jacob deGrom going down for the Mets. I mean, it sunk the Mets this year. I mean, they could have been much better, but like deGrom, and like, my God. So that would be Olsen. I think is an important building block that the Yankees need to bring in. And then I would trade for one of these young catchers who are blocked by a superstar, like an MJ Melendez. He's blocked by Salvador Perez in Kansas City, who's just starting his extension, but he's a top-rated catcher. Again, infusion of young catching in the system. And the same thing with Tyler Soderstrom in Oakland. He's blocked by Sean Murphy, another top-rated young catcher. And I'm of the opinion also that the Yankees should be drafting a catcher in the first 5 rounds for like the next 5 years and build a pipeline of catching just like they did with shortstop, because they're the 2 most tradable positions. And they're the 2 most positions most desired in trades. Like, there's not many catchers out there, but people are looking for catchers. Same thing with shortstops. And the Yankees have built up enough depth there. I think doing the same thing with a catcher would be a good idea. And it would give them some kind of depth behind Gary Sanchez. So that's what I think they should do as well. And then trading for a second starter like a Luis Castillo from the Reds, but trying to go after like Amir Garrett too for the bullpen and beefing up the pen a little bit, being down Zach Britton, and he's going to be gone the whole entire year. We don't know what to expect from Chapman. I have no problem moving Lasagna over to the closer if he shows that he can do it, and Clay Holmes. But I think one more arm, if they don't sign somebody like Andrew Chafin, who's like a crafty lefty in free agency, if you can get 2 guys in a trade, like a Castillo and a Garrett, I would be going after that. And I don't think you'd have to clean the farm out. You don't have to give up Dominguez or Volpe in any one of these trades. So
I like the idea of getting a backup, like not a backup, but like a catching prospect. It might be one of those things where you have to trade from a position of strength. Like we might have to give them one of our shortstop prospects just to get a catching prospect, you know?
Give them Trey Sweeney if they're running, or somebody like that, and then you goose it up a little bit with some more people. But if you can pry Melendez or Soderstrom, that'd be a good building block for the Yankees. Some youth in the season.
I'm really high on Trey Sweeney. And I'm not saying I wouldn't deal him, but I think his swing is built for Yankee Stadium. If you look at making the transition to professional baseball, wood bats, pro pitchers, all that stuff, 7 home runs in like 120 something at bats or 150 at bats last year. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I hope that guys like him, if he stays in Dominguez, as they move up the system, adapt to the higher levels the way that Volpe has. Because he's going to, at some point, he's going to be in the Vlad Guerrero or one, so he's going to force them to have to play him. It's like, dude, this guy's too good. We can't keep him in AAA now. We have to put him up. We have to. Like, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. So I hope those guys progress. And that's been my biggest concern, because hitting guys in AA is not the same as hitting Justin Verlander. Hitting guys there is not the same as hitting Jacob deGrom or Cole. Those guys are top of the game. So I want to make sure that the transition is smooth, like what they're doing with Volpe. So I think being patient with some of these guys is important, but not being afraid to move them in a deal. And Volpe to me is a no-go, a no deal for anybody. Dominguez to me is a no-go, except for maybe one player. Yeah, exactly. So my one player for Dominguez would be Brian Reynolds. My only one player.
Yeah, I think I would go with, there's 2 players that I would move Dominguez for. One is Brian Reynolds. The other is Shohei Ohtani. I would move him for Ohtani.
Do you think they would move him?
I don't think the Angels would move him, but I know he expressed interest in going elsewhere. He played. He said he wanted to play on the West Coast. You got your wish. There's no good West Coast teams other than the Dodgers. I'm sorry. If you want to come play for a real team, we'd love to have you. You're built for Yankee Stadium. I would love to have Ohtani. I don't think it's a possibility anytime soon, but I would love to see it.
Yeah, I have a feeling. I mean, I think they're gonna, with Trout being healthy and Ohtani, and I think Pujols comes off the books now, and then Upton comes off the books next year. So they're gonna have money to spend to beef up. They're gonna try
and sign Juan Soto.
I agree, and don't be surprised if they get Trevor Story this offseason or somebody like that either.
Yeah,
shortstop position. So I think they're gonna make some kind of move, a surprising move. But my other 3 on the other end with the Yankees, and like I said, like I'm of the opinion, I think we're gonna be vastly disappointed most of what they do, but then surprised with something that Cashman does, because he always pulls some Houdini trade that we were never thinking of for somebody, and then at the end of the day, I'll be like, I can't believe he did that. I'm in that boat. So I think he's going to make a trade for either Olsen or Chapman, and I don't think they're going to add a pitcher. I think they're going to sign Rodon at the end of the day, And then it's either going to be, in my opinion, Brett Gardner or somebody like Eddie Rosario, who's got playoff experience. He's fast. He's younger than Gardner. He's basically a younger version of Gardner. He's a good base runner. He runs good routes. He's defensively very skilled in the outfield. And he's somebody, while I would love for them to sign somebody like Seiya Suzuki, I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to wind up in Boston, to be honest with you. But somebody like Rosario, I think, would be, somebody. And I know they brought in Ender Inciarte on a minor league deal, but Rosario right now is kind of at the peak of his game. He's not a superstar. He's not going to cost a ton, but a valuable fourth outfielder. Somebody, in case they happen to move Florial, I wouldn't mind if they gave Florial a shot, but somebody like Rosario, who's playoff tested and he's kind of proven to be now, I'd be happy if they brought him somebody. If they brought him in. But I would choose Rosario over Gardner at this point.
Yeah, I'm over Gardner. I mean, he's done a nice job. He's a fan favorite. Thank you for the memories, but it's time for some fresh blood.
Yeah, I want him to go out on top. I would hate to see them bring him back and then he regresses to the point where people are like, what did you guys do? That's my fear. That's my fear. It's going to happen.
I already had that feeling last year. I was like, I had to watch that for months where he was hitting 150.
Yeah. And it's like, Jesus, come on, guys. What are we doing here? And then not having guys behind him to, to step up. And I don't know why they're not giving guys like Esteban Florial. That's my other frustrating part of the Yankees, not giving some of these young guys a legitimate shot. You bringing them up for a week and expecting them to adapt is not enough time.
Well, Florial, he didn't do much in the minors, to be fair. He hasn't proven that he can hit AAA pitching yet, so I can understand them not wanting to start him in center field. The Suzuki thing, that's an interesting, I could see the Yankees signing him and putting him in center field because he's kind of a stud. But I do think I agree with you. I think he's meant for Boston. Just that swing, how he hits those high fly balls. I think he's going to go to Boston. I think he's going to just dominate in Boston.
Feast on that wall.
Yep.
He's going to feast on it. And again, if the Yankees were to sign him, they're going to have to move Gallo.
Yeah.
And they're just going to have to, unfortunately.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. If you want to move Gallo, move Gallo. I'm not attached to Gallo.
No. And then you put Judge and Stanton in the corners, and then you get yourself a decent fourth outfielder, whoever it is. And I'll be happy with that. And Gallo, I mean, San Diego tried to get him. I'm sure you can move him in a trade. You can try to add Chapman because they want a reliever. You could get something out of San Diego if you move Gallo and roll this Chapman over there.
I guess we're just gonna have to wait, man. It's been fun to speculate over the last couple of months, but I'm ready for stuff to start happening.
Oh God, yeah, I can't wait, man. I really can't wait. But dude, I want to thank you for coming on, man, and appreciate it. Let's do something live soon, man. We'll have a lot of fun. Let's do something live during the season as well.
That'd be fun.
Be in the thick of things, man. But if you guys haven't taken a look at Derek's channel yet, NYY Recaps, again, it's one of the best channels out there for Yankee content, man. So go give him a check. If you like it, make sure you support his channel by subscribing. Derek, thanks so much, man. Have a good weekend, bro. I'll talk to you next time.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Over now.